business. I don't do cold calls. At this level, I'm using existing relationships from my circle, from the United Way circle, from relationships I've had at the YWCA. You guys talked about volunteering. So I meet a lot of people just at networking events, boards that I sit on everywhere. The city is small, it really is small, and like everyone's connected. But I've chosen to focus on the corporate side, which again speaks to where I came from. I came from corporate America as an auditor, so I get the talk. It's natural to me. I'm relatable when they see me for the most part. When I go to a corporation and ask for $500,000 or whatever it is. The next step, I'm not managing folks. I'm still part of a development team, but I think anyone in my position could easily go from a development officer to like a director sort of position, where now you're talking about strategy, right? For your fundraising or for your organization. You still are connected to the issues, but not only are you connected to the issues, you're thinking, okay, besides just grant writing, what are the other creative ways we can bring in funds to this organization? It's a different shift, I think, from like program development if you work on the program side. And I think Kelly, you had mentioned, being able to fundraise. I mean, if you have any fundraising skills, like any, and you tell a nonprofit that, they will they will hold on to you so tight because no one wants to do it. Like they think it's hard, they think it's cold calling, they think it's like, people say no to you all the time. No, it totally is like dating. Like it's one of those things where it's like you just go in for it, and yeah, right. I'm not good at it either. But this has made it better. Fundraising has made it a little bit better. But all that to say, if you have just a little bit of fundraising experience, I think that will help you greatly in your career, and certainly allow you to have a different kind of conversation with people when you're talking about why they should support your organization. Let's see. Oh, why do we? Why did I put that there? I was losing my. Got it. Why fundraising? For me, what I realized is that everyone needs a fundraiser. Like, you need money to run your organization. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a think tank, an art institute. You're always going to be, wanted if you're a fundraiser. And then one of the things I sort of picked up, and this was after YWCA, because it's a feminist organization, because it's a women's organization, because everyone sort of, doesn't take it quite seriously, you're forced to negotiate. And that's not a skill that I was taught in grad school. That's not a skill that I was taught in my undergrad. I've negotiated with like my 4 brothers, but that's like, over my space. But like talking about real negotiation skills and talking to people about why they should support your organization is a skill that you can take anywhere. I will ask you for anything and you won't even know I'm asking you it. That's sort of what the YWCA has taught me, and the United Way as well. So, 10 things that I wish I knew about this sector when I was in your position. I won't go through all of these, but I was talking to a colleague of mine on Monday telling her that I was going to be here today, and she was like, one of the things is that people need to know that you don't need that much money, and you can in fact make money in this sector. So people think that you come in as a development associate and you're only going to make $20,000. That's quite possible. It's quite possible. But you can also go work for the University of Chicago, coming in as a development associate and make 50, right? Or if you're the development director, you could easily be making like 50, 60, 70. It all depends on what your values are, which is one of the things in here. And also your lifestyle. If you've got a big family, maybe you want to be a little bit more strategic in what sector you choose to go into. For me, I'm single, I have no kids, I have no large debt. So I'm at a good place. I'm like, cool, this works for me. I know that I can easily go over to say like the MacArthur Foundation. In my position, I could be making maybe $20,000 more. That's just the reality. Health and human services sector tend to pay less, but I think that that you can in fact like live off of a nonprofit salary. That's like the biggest myth that people are scared of, especially if you're coming from corporate. You're like, oh, nonprofit, I'm not going to make any money. No, just change your lifestyle. Community service is everything, and I also learned this at the Y, and it's also connected to humility. So it doesn't matter if you're, putting together a flyer, if you're talking to someone about, STD prevention. I think in nonprofit, you have to remember that your donors, your community, they're your customers. And without them, you can't really function. And so being willing to do more in this sector actually pays off. It may suck, but it actually pays off in the end. Another thing is size matters. The bigger the nonprofit, the more corporate it feels. And actually, in terms of trends, I think that more and more nonprofits are starting to look corporate and act corporate. I've been at small organizations, and it is sort of where like one person wears multiple hats. But the bigger you go, sort of like at the YWCA or United Way level, we are sort of more corporate. So I can't just like walk in jeans like this with my outfit. We do have like, we do use Outlook to send messages. Like we're very, very, we're corporate, but I think on the more relaxed side of corporate, but it's comfortable to me. Let's see. Everything else, I feel like everyone has stated. Number 7, I got into a debate with someone about this. There's this myth that if you go to the for-profit side that you're a sellout. Absolutely not, because you mentioned, I think you can still do good no matter what sector that you're in. So be it the nonprofit sector, the government sector, whatever. I think you can still do a good job. And these are just some resources. You guys are here, so I'm sure you guys have come across many of these already. These are the ones that I have like in my digital Rolodex, so to speak. So I'm on Forward TV. I follow all the TEDx talks. I have the Huffington Post sort of stuff. In addition, because I do corporate fundraising, I have all the RSS feeds for like CSR Wire, companies, whenever they put out stuff, that comes into my email. My email box is full, and the IT guys are yelling at me. Also, what's not on here is the Stanford Social Innovation Review, SSIR. They put out awesome articles about the trends happening in the nonprofit sector. So I encourage you all to check those out as you're looking for jobs, as you're looking for what's happening in the sector and where things are going. I encourage you to check those resources out. And I think that's it. If you have any questions.
So we did the opposite of what I said. Instead of taking questions after each presenter, we are in fact open for questions now. And you've heard a lot of information, so we want to be sure that you have ample time to ask questions from each of the presenters, from all of them. Any questions?
I do have one. I'm just curious about this because I think Kelly, you touched on this about having longevity at an organization, and seeing that now that brings newcomers into jobs or changing jobs at a much rapid pace. How do you think that might play a part in the nonprofit?
Yeah, I think, I think if there is a good person who's competent, who is hardworking and dedicated, it's true, you had the point about there are some bad bosses and people with big egos, but my experience has been, for the most part, people really want to look out for and help other people, and so if that means there's nowhere for you to move up or nowhere for you to do that thing that you want to do. Maybe it's not a promotion, but maybe it's just a different sort of mission fit. That they support you in moving through the sector, and I've had people, give our own employees in my organization advice. Well, if this is what you really want to do, and kind of coach them through the process. And so I don't think it's uncommon, and I don't think just like you talked about switching, even to the for-profit sector. I don't think, for the most part, it's looked, it's frowned upon. I think it's just a reality of life, and so. And there's also that maybe sort of hope that maybe if that person goes out and develops their skills further, maybe they'll come back to us, and maybe they'll sit on our board, or they'll maybe be our CEO one day, or whatever. So, yeah, it's a reality that I think the sector as a whole in any community is just a very fluid sort of. That the staff are sort of in and out of a lot of the different organizations that are comprise an industry or a subsector like arts or human services.
I was going to say at the Y, I started started at the development associate position, and my boss, Christine Work, who is now the CEO of the YWCA, she was like, I want you to be the CEO of YWCA. I was like, oh, geez. But I then was promoted 2 years later to be the business development officer. And then when I reached a point at that position, like you were saying, where it's like, okay, there's really nowhere else to go in this, it's like, I've got to leave. And I told her that, she was like, oh. But they understand that there's really, with some nonprofits, there's no room to do this. There's a lot of room to do this. Like, you can add work to your table, to your desk, all you want to. But they understood that it was time to sort of go to the next level, and that's what I wanted to do. And I felt like going to the United Way was the way to do that.
I can say too that, I mean, I'm reflecting on what the presenters have said, and it truly does resonate with the fact that you can move between sectors. I spent a good number of years in state government, and I can tell you for a fact that that was the training ground for a lot of people who moved up in state government and maybe focused or concentrated in a specific area, and by golly, most of them then went out into the nonprofit sector and became the executive director of, or they went to Chapin Hall, or they went to, you know, because I spent most of my time in human service agencies in state government. Well, now, a lot of those people who were in a bureau or division in state government are now the executive directors in nonprofits or CEOs, or, you know, and they've moved within that sector several times from my experience. And so it's very fluid, it's very diverse and versatile. And I think the experiences that your presenters have all brought attest to that. So don't feel at all. I mean, and particularly the fundraising part. A lot of nonprofits, everybody does fundraising without even knowing it, because what you're doing is you're perpetuating an image, you know, for your organization, and people have a passion for that sector. I always talk about the Humane Society, the ASPCA. I would give them my food and everything because it's poor little puppies, and, you know. So if people come and ask me for money, it doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't have to be the fundraiser. It's just somebody that represents, you know, that passion that I have, and I can't do the work. And you know, I'd probably kill off all the little puppies trying to fatten them up or something. But I will give money to the people who do know what they're doing, and that could be anybody in the organization. So what we teach is and what we train people to do is not look at it in terms of nonprofit fundraising, but in terms of the sector that has probably the most flexibility, as we've spoken about, and also that everyone in the organization can have several different roles successfully in order to keep that organization growing and moving. So, I'm sorry, I just said, I mean, my whole puppy is So, what we're going to do, and you have a handout, and I think it doesn't have Kate's lead slides on it. I didn't have them, so sorry, Kate. And telephones and all that, and I've got to get them on there. So, and Kelly's slides were very, very important. So what I'm going to do is capture what they have put together and then send it back out to you.